Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Elizabeth and I read and I write and I love everything to do with literature and composition. And in today's video I'm just doing a quick book review. I haven't had the time recently to even make a YouTube video, so we are in a study room at my college and talking about a book that I read over Christmas break. And so the book is called The Way I Used to Be. It's by Amber Smith, and I'm just gonna put a picture of it somewhere up here because I have the book with me, but it's in my car, of course, so I didn't bring it in to make this video. But this is the book. Let me first give the rating of this book. So I rate this book out of 5. A 4. Solid 4. I rated a 4, but before I explain why I rated a 4, let me go through and basically give a little synopsis, and then I'll go back and explain why I rated it the way that I rated it. So basically this book is about a high school girl that gets raped, and it goes through her freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior years of high school and how she deals with the grief, how she deals with the pain that experience caused her, how she interacts in relationships, romantically and like familial relationships, and just friendships, and how she navigates that even after the rape, and how that like changed her perception of different things. It talks about how, as a high school girl, just how like high schoolers are, high school boys, high school girls, like just the constant like interactions between them all, and how like critical that is to like a grieving person and how that affects them. She, by the end of the book, is basically, it goes from being like, hey, she got raped and she's dealing with this trauma, except that she's not really dealing with it. And then by the end of the book, it's like, okay, she's not playing victim. Like, even though she is a victim, she isn't playing that card. She isn't just a victim, she's a survivor. She's a human being, she's a woman. And through those years of high school, where Amber Smith is explaining how this girl goes through each of those stages and like relating to those different things, it's just so nice to see a story of a girl who gets through it, and that it's not like just all better, but it's getting resolved, and you can see that this story is going to be better. Her life is going to be good for her after she's dealt with this. And so this is a really great book. One of my favorite like parts about this book that I think are like just deep, is that there's a part where she explains when she was getting raped. So trigger warning, that is in there, and there are a lot of details, so if you that kind of like puts a little different state on you, maybe don't read it, because it is literally centered around that experience. But she explains that at the time when she was a freshman, she got raped, she was wearing her Tuesday underwear. And now, I don't know about anyone else, but there's something to say about a little girl wearing weekday underwear, because I feel like all of us did that. We had weekday underwear, and it's like, she specifically says, like, I wasn't even wearing the right day because I knew it didn't matter, like nobody would see it. And then she gets raped, and obviously someone sees those, and that like really hit, because I'm like, yeah, she's in high school, she's a freshman, she's like maybe 14, but she is still a child, like she's still a child. And this concept of like her underwear, wearing weekday underwear, is like really bringing that into place, where it's like, that hits. And so that was what really did it for me. I rated a 4 because of those kind of details, and how the ending just wrapped up so nicely, without knowing that she's not done with her grief cycle, and she's not done, getting support, but she's on her way to. So it ends very nicely, but I also, and for those like little details, also why I rate it so highly, the only reason it's not a 4.5 or a 5 is because to me personally, the beginning of this book, besides, I mean, yes, it like described her getting raped and stuff and the beginnings of it, and it was just very slow. And I don't know if that was just me, like maybe other people out there going like that was the best part, but to me it was like very slow going, and it was kind of, I was like, is this book gonna be good? Like I wasn't sure. I mean, it was super good. You just have to get through that beginning, if that also bores you a little bit. But I also have this theory that Amber Smith did this on purpose, because if you've ever been raped or assaulted or anything of that nature, time might move in really slow motion afterwards. And so I feel like that might have been the reasoning behind Amber Smith's like writing and making this very slow paced at the beginning. Is like, dude, she just got raped, like life is on hold, like basically like this is like this insane thing is going on, she's grieving and she's not understanding really what's going on within herself, and it's like now we're moving really slowly because that's how her brain's moving. She's just like in this weakness spot because this happened to her. And so a lot of those things I think are really important. It's just a matter of how the author displays it, and I think Amber Smith did a really great job with that display. I've decided for my book reviews I'm also going to give a rating between 1 and 5 if I would recommend using it in a classroom, because it is YA. It is YA literature, which if you don't know is young adult literature, and it is obviously something that happens often. It's very unfortunate, but it happens all the time. And in high school it happens all the time, and in college it happens all the time. So do I think it's important for kids to read books like this? Absolutely, 110%. But would it work in a classroom? I don't think so. You know, in a comparison of should 1 to 5, should they read it? 5. Girls and boys alike. But should it be taught and used in a classroom? I'm giving it a 1. Maybe a 2. Because I think if you have a really open school system that wants you to have hard conversations and things like that, it might be a choice. But you've also got to consider students that have already gone through this and have had really difficult experiences like this. And so is it appropriate? And so there's just a lot that goes into that, because this book brought up a lot of emotions for me. So there's no telling as a high school student how many emotions and how much like trauma this could bring up for them. And so I always like to consider that before thinking about teaching it to a class, is like, this is a heavy book. And so if someone asks if you maybe like have a book recommendation about anything like that, like I would definitely say that book. But as far as like doing it as a class, I don't think so. I think it is just a lot of pressure on an individual to do that as a class, especially when it's such a just dark, deep book. So that's kind of my take on that. Also, so like I pretty much thought this was going to be a pretty short video, and I love these because I like thinking about doing these because they give me like this really short snippet to post to YouTube, and it's super quick and easy, but also like gives an individual video enough space to talk about one book in totality. And it's like, you know, I can't talk about 3 books in a span of 20 minutes and be okay with that. Like, that's just not me. This book though, I think there's just something so great about the way that Amber Smith wrote this and made her a survivor, made her out to be more than just the victim. I know some people really like found families, that kind of tension or connection in books that they read. It has a little bit of that. Not necessarily family as in plural, but definitely family as in found person, like someone that she can connect with at the end. And there's just a lot of very relatable things in the book as well that I think is another reason why it's so important for our students to read. It talks about dealing with grief in a way that is not talked about in the classroom. It's talking about dealing with grief by just continuously having sex with people mindlessly and not even, feeling anything or doing it for any specific reason. It's just to do it. Like, that is a grief pattern. That's part of a grief cycle that some people go through. It is talked about heavily in this book, which I think is so important to talk about. There's just so many little details like that is so ingrained in this book that are just so important for our kids and our students to read about once they reach a certain age, of course. But again, just in a classroom, this just doesn't feel comfortable to do in a classroom either. It is very detailed, it is very deep, and it's just one of those books that will maybe torture your mind a little bit and make you rethink your life decisions, so in the best way possible. So it's definitely something I would recommend as an individual, but not as a class whole. So I did look up with if Amber Smith had other books, because this is the first one I'd ever heard from her, and that book has actually been sitting on my to be read for a while until I finally read it. So she wrote The Way I Used to Be in 2016, or published in 2016. She has The Way I Am Now, which is the sequel that came out in 2023. She has The Last to Let Go, which came out in 2018. And it has something kind of very similar coverage to this book, but I'm not exactly sure what it's about. She has Something Like Gravity, which was published in 2019, which also has the same look. And then all of her other books have very different looks, which is interesting. So definitely go check out that book. Go read it if you haven't already. And as an educator, I recommend reading it for the sake of your students who might have the same situation happen and come to you for support and help and advice, because it is always likely. And as an educator, I believe that it is absolutely vital to be there for our students, and even if it is in this grotesque, really difficult way. Because understanding and reading about something is just the first step to helping our students and giving them proper support for what they're going through. So this book is awesome. Go read it. That's my final word. And I appreciate you guys watching this short little video about The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. And I will catch you guys in the next video, which will probably also be a book review. So I'll see you guys next time.